I'd like to thank you for tuning in and welcome you back to my channel. Once again, I'm Noxz, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of my Alisa breakdown. Throughout this segment, I'm going to be covering her punishment game, wall carry, and your wall options. So just to kind of get things going here, we want to remember that whenever we're testing things like punishers and strings, we want to make sure the CPU opponent action 2 is set to guard all, so we know what we're doing is natural. We also want to make sure counter hit is not on, so we're getting accurate damage readings. Now at 10 frames, Alisa has 1-1. 1-1, really solid jab punisher, +5 on hit. She can go into destructive form off it. So different, mix up things you can do off the advantage. It's only -3 on block, so if you mistime your punish, you're completely safe. Pretty good. Pretty good 10 frame jab punish in my opinion. Now at -11, she doesn't really have anything, so we're going to be using 1-1 to punish anything at -10 or -11. At -12, we have 2-4. 2-4 is really good move. Probably going to be one of your most commonly used punishers. It does knock down, so you have different, Oki opportunities you can create, different setups and things you can do off of it, if you choose. Otherwise, it definitely creates space, so you can kind of, just go back to your neutral game and just kind of fill out the situation. Really good pace-changing punishing move. Also, it does wall splat, so if your opponent's back's to the wall, you're going to get that combo extension off of the wall. Really solid. It's only -5, so it's safe. It's just a good move. Now, at -13, she has standing 4. Standing 4 is only 24 damage. It does wall splat and knockdown as well. But in my opinion, for anything -12 to -13, you should just be using 2-4. Because it's more damage and you get everything you would get off the standing 4. So again, -12 to -13, we're going to be using 2-4. So you punish something like a hop kick, this is going to be, your go-to punish for something like a hop kick. Now moving on to her 14 frames, she has a few different options here. She has forward 1+2. Now this move is 14 to 15 frames, depending on range. So basically what that means is if you block something that pushes you way far back, it's going to come out a little bit slower. But for the most part, if you're around here and you block something that doesn't have too much pushback, that move's going to come out in 14 frames. Now again, it's a really solid move because it's a lot of advantage on hit. It's +7 to +8. So you can really start something for yourself after that. You can throw out a down forward 2 just to check your opponent. And if they push a button, they're getting launched. If they don't, you're safe still. So definitely really solid. She can also go into her boot stance off of it. So just a few different things you can do. Really good. Remember, +7 to +8, so you can just get creative with what you want to do with starting your pressure or mixing your opponent up. But keep in mind that it is -12. So if they block it, you happen to mistime your punish, you are unsafe. Not too terribly bad, but you are -12. So just keep that in mind when using that. Now her other 14 frame option, which in my opinion is the option you should be using 100% of the time, is forward 3-2. Forward 3-2 again is 14 to 15 frames, so the same rules apply with this as it did forward 1+2. But because it does the corkscrew or tailspin, whatever you want to call it, you can do forward 2-1. That's 58 damage off a 14 frame punish. Really solid. Also, you get the knockdown, so it allows for, again, different Oki setups. And that the one part of it will actually, that last hit right there will break the floor. So if you're on a stage where the floor breaks, you're going to get that extra combo extension off that as well. So that's a whole lot of damage off something that's only -14. Really good punish. Something to remember is it's only -4, so it is safe. But the thing you want to remember is it's high and it doesn't jail. So if your opponent knows Alisa and you mistime that punish, they can duck and launch you. So just keep that in mind when using that move. But otherwise, if you notice your opponent doesn't duck this move, like, you can honestly probably just spam it because it's only -4. You're in chainsaw, so you're going to be able to sidestep and do lots of crazy things if they block it. So if you notice someone's not ducking that, then definitely use it. Really, really solid move. Now, she does also have 3-2. 3-2 is another 14 frame punish. Now, I'm not a big fan of it, and it was this move right here. I mean, it's 32 damage. You're only +1 on hit. It's -9 on block, so it's safe, but there's just, it's kind of like the forward 1+2. Like, in my opinion, this is way better than this. Just because it allows for so much more afterwards. But your best option is going to be forward 3-2. Now, moving on to her 15 frame punish. In my opinion, her 15 frame punish is really inconsistent. So I use forward 3-2 for anything -14 or -15, and I get my 58, damage into my setup every time something's -14 or -15. But that being said, at 15 frames, she does have her hop kick. Her hop kick is 15 to 16 frames. Now, just speaking from my personal experience, I want to say 85% of the time I've tried to use this on something that was -15. My hop kick gets blocked and I get punished. So again, I use forward 3-2, but Alisa's up forward 4-4 is 15 to 16 frames. Obviously, she gets a nice combo off that. It is -13 on block, so it's not safe. Someone like Josie or Kazuya is going to be able to launch you for it. Some characters are going to get more than others, but no matter what, you're getting punished for that. So keep that in mind. Now at 16 frames, she has down forward 2. Down forward 2 it's good. It leads to a decent amount of damage, and it's only -9. So if you mistime that punish, you know that you're safe. But for anything 16 frames, I use hop kick. Now maybe it's just because I like what I get off of it more than I do the down forward 2, but that's just my personal preference. You can use either of those moves at -16. And that pretty much covers it for just her basic punishment game, standard from -10 to -16. So again, the things you want to kind of just keep in mind is -10 to -11, we're pressing 1-1. -12, -13, we're pressing 2-4. -14, -15, we're doing 4-3-2. And then for anything, at -16 or above, we're either hop kicking or down 4-2. Whatever you want to do. Next, I want to get into her whiff punishing. So with Alisa, you have a few different options when it comes to whiff punishing. It all really depends on your preference and spacing. So my favorite whiff punisher is back 3 +4. This move is -17, so if you mistime your punish, you are going to get launched for it, so just keep that in mind. You never want to do back 3 +4, 3 +4, because that's only 44 damage, and it just doesn't really lead to a lot. The only time you'd want to do that would be if you're on that temple stage where it has all those floor breaks. That second hit will break the floor, and then you can, extend your combo from there. But other than that, you just want to use back 3 +4. It gives good damage, it has decent range, and it's also good to use as a low crush. So solid move, but keep in mind it is -17, so you can be launched for it. From a little bit more of a range, she has forward 1+2. Forward 1+2, definitely leads to good damage as well. And because it has so much range, you can really launch punish from pretty deep down there. But keep in mind that move is -16, so you can be launch punished for that as well. And in my opinion, those are her two best launching whiff punishers. Back 3 +4 and forward 1+2. She does also have 1+2. This move is only -5, so it is safe, but it's extremely steppable. And in my experience, if your opponent throws a move out that doesn't have a whole lot of recovery, they're going to be able to block that in time, or even worse, they're going to be able to step it, and then they'll get a back turn combo on you or a grab or something like that, and it's just not really worth it. I would, it would be better to go for something like a forward 1+2 instead of 1+2. Now, the only situation I can say where that is a good whiff punishing tool would be like if you were fighting Kazumi and she throws her tigers at you and you step the tiger. She's in so much recovery on whiff from that you can actually step the tiger and then 1+2 and pretty much full screen launch punish her for doing that. So in that situation, it's good because your opponent is in so much recovery that they're not going to be able to block in time. But otherwise, I really wouldn't use 1+2 as a whiff punisher. That's just my personal preference. but it is only -5. So if you do choose to use it and they block it, you are completely safe. So that is good to keep in mind. Also, she has up forward 3-2. Up forward 3-2 is a good whiff punishing tool if you know you're out of range and you can't, you're not going to be able to launch them, because it has a lot of range to it, and because it's natural, you get that 45 damage and you get that knockdown. So you get Oki setups on top of it. So I feel like that's really good, and that does also break the floor. So again, it's just a solid move. When you're not going to be able to launch them, you can at least get the 45 damage out of that. And she can also cancel the second hit and go into her stance. So she's got mix-ups and things you can, opportunities you can create for yourself off of it. So definitely a good move. Definitely one to, keep in the arsenal. And lastly here, one more thing I apologize I want to mention about 4-3-2. This move is -14. So if you mistime that, you are going to get punished pretty hard. Now, it is -14 to -9, so depending on the range and the spacing, it can be safe under some situations. But for the most part, the move's going to be -14. So just keep in mind, they block that, you're going to be launched. So the last option that she has here, the last good option I should say, is she has forward 4. Forward 4 has a lot of range, so you can pretty much be like full screen and whiff punish with that. It does have this guaranteed follow-up, so she can get 40 damage from it, and that's natural. So again, from pretty deep, you're getting 40 damage, guaranteed off of a whiff. So that's really good to use in those situations where they're whiffing something and you're just too far away. Up 4-3-2 is not going to hit. Your other options aren't going to hit. You have this. So, not quite full screen, but as you see, it's pretty close. That's 40 damage. So that pretty much covers it for her whiff punishing and just her punishing in general. Couple rules I like to follow when whiff punishing with Alisa is pretty much I want to whiff punish with back 3+4 most of the time. If I know that that's out of range, I'm going to use forward 1+2. Otherwise, if they're too far to be able to, actually get a launch off of the whiff, then I'm going to almost always do up 4-3-2. The only time I wouldn't do up 4-3-2 would be if I knew they were too far, and then you'd have the forward 4-4 option. All right, next here I'd like to cover Alisa's wall carry. She does have a few different options. It just depends on whether we want to put them on the wall before tailspin or after. And that really depends on where we are on the stage during the combo. So off of tailspin, I feel like her best wall carry option is 4-4-3-4. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like. As you can see there, it covers plenty of range, so you definitely get that extra push to get them to the wall to get your extension. In my opinion, probably one of your best wall carry options off of tailspin. One thing to keep in mind is if you tailspin them very early on in the combo, it does extend your options. It just, again, it depends on spacing. So say like something like this, for example, you could dash up and do down back 2-2. That'll work to put them on the wall, or you can do forward 4-3-4-4. That'll put them on the wall. But again, all this really depends on spacing on where you are. Mostly you're going to want to use 4-4-3-4 just because you can put it at the end of a pretty decently long combo and get a nice little follow-up off the wall. So I really feel like that's probably one of her best options. Next we have back forward 2. Back forward 2 is a really good wall carry option as well because it pushes your opponent far, and we can use it in more of a juggle situation instead of off of a tailspin. So just as an example, you can do something like this, and that's going to carry them to the wall. So it's really good for those kinds of situations. Also, another good application for it is off of her counter hit Magic 4, which is going to do tailspin immediately. You could do something basic like this, pretty much the same thing, and you're going to be able to put them on the wall and get extra damage. So definitely really good tool, just like 4-4-3-4. Just remember, we want to use back forward 2 in more of a juggle situation to put them on the wall before the tailspin rather than after. Now, one other thing to keep in mind off back forward 2 is it will break the wall. So if you're close enough to the wall when you hit your opponent with it, just keep that in mind because you'll need to adjust your combo for the wall break scenario. But other than that, she has forward 3-2. Now, forward 3-2 isn't as good of a wall carry option as it used to be. And the reason is because up forward 1+2 from destructive form doesn't bound anymore because now we have this whole tailspin system. So it's just not as good because you don't get a whole lot of damage off it or really even too good of setups. So it's not that great of an option, but it definitely is one she has. So I'll show you real quick. I mean, you can't do much. You can maybe, go for something like that, or a down 1, or forward 1+2, or, forward 1+2, but you're not going to get a lot of damage out of any of those options compared to what you would get if you were to just use back forward 2. But it definitely is an option she has, so just so we're able to cover all our bases. Now, I do have one other thing I want to show you guys as far as her wall carry goes, but it's actually off of floor break, so we're going to go ahead and switch to the temple stage so I can show you guys that real quick. Alright, now the last thing I want to cover here is a wall carry option off of a floor break. So I'm just going to give you a basic example. But we're going to use forward 1+2. Alright, so what we did there is off of the floor break we did forward 1+2 to push them to the wall. But because forward 1+2 allows us to go into our stance off it, if we tap 3+4, the second you hit them with forward 1+2, you hit 3+4 to go into your stance, and then you do that string 1 2 1 3+4. And that's probably one of the best things to do at the end of a combo in a situation kind of like the one I just showed you if there's a floor break. But other than that, you kind of just want to stick to the two main rules. If it's a longer combo and the wall's further away and you want to do it off of a tailspin, you're going to use triple forward 3-4. Now if the wall's closer to you and you're doing it off a juggle situation, then we use back forward 2. Other than that, you have the forward 1+2 and you have the few other examples I gave you, but those are definitely the main things you want to use as far as pushing your opponent to the wall to allow for those extensions. Now the next thing we're going to cover is actually what to do once you put your opponent on the wall. So the last thing we're going to cover today is what to do once you put your opponent on the wall with Alisa. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down the list of what I think are some of her best options, and then I'll go back and briefly touch on how to apply them in an actual combo situation. So first up, Alisa has forward 1+2-2. Really good, does solid damage, leaves you in destructive form after, so you have good mix-up opportunities. Then she has 1-2 forward 1+2. Probably my favorite thing to do on the wall personally. Again, good damage, about the same damage or just slightly less than the previous one, forward 1+2-2. And again, it allows for those good Oki situations. So I really like that. Now, next, she'll have 1-2-2 and hold 2 the second time, and then if they sleep, you get that down back 1+2 rocket. And keep in mind that rocket will break the floor, so if you're on the temple stage, you can get a combo reset with the floor break. But that's only really good to do if you're filling out your opponent and you see that they like to sleep a lot after getting hit, then you can go for something like that. Now, the last thing here I want to mention as far as what to do on a wall would be her hop kick. Now, what makes this kind of good is you can jump over your opponent and cross them up. And if you notice that they like to wake up right away and hold back, then you can do this in a way to kind of mess with their mind, cross them up, and get a combo starter with her up back 4. So definitely just something to keep in mind. Now, those last two options, I only really would use very situational, like I said, depending on your opponent and how you feel about it, or just how fancy you want to be, or do you want to go for the reset with the hop kick, or do you want more of like an Oki situation. But as far as the first two options, the rule I like to follow is if you put your opponent on the wall after a tailspin, I always do forward 1+2-2. And the reason that is because it covers a lot of distance fast, so you can catch them on the wall before they slide off, and it does good damage, and it leaves us in destructive form with our opponents waking up with their back to the wall. So we have a lot of really good mix-up opportunities. Now, in any situation where you put them on the wall, prior to the tailspin, I would always do 1-2 forward 1+2. It's good damage, and again, you have really good Oki situations. And then I would use the other two just as mix-up opportunities. You know, just if you fill out, like I said, you fill out your opponent, you see their tendencies, you can use those other 2 wall options to kind of throw them off and, you know, set up resets and things like that. So in my opinion, those are her best things to do off the wall. One other thing I kind of want to cover here is if you go for the 1+2 wall splat, you know, off after you hit them with forward 1+2/2 and you go for something like that to put them back on the wall, because you're in destructive form, you really don't have a whole lot of options. So you could do down 2 and all that's gonna hit, you know, for 47 damage. And again, you know, we're using this to put them back on the wall. So again, like after we hit with this, you know, they're waking up, we're applying pressure, we throw this in there and we put them back on the wall. This will give us 47 damage, which is alright. But she doesn't, like I said, she doesn't really have a lot that she can do because up forward 1+2 doesn't bound anymore on the wall. So in this situation, I personally like to do this. And the reason that is because it's a quick little 45 damage, but they'll typically try to get up right away, so I'll get that down 1 again after. So that's just a quick little something that I like to do. Again, we'll cover this way more in depth in the next segment when I get into setups with her, but just something to keep in mind if you're trying to put them back on the wall with chainsaws. Now, as far as moves to put your opponent on the wall outside of combo, so in this kind of situation, back to 4 like you've been seeing me doing is really good because it's natural. And it's, you know, it starts with a mid, so if you catch them ducking, you're putting them right on the wall. Obviously, we have 2-4, our punish that we went over earlier. Now, off of 2-4, here, let's fix this real quick. Off of 2-4, I'm always just going to do 1-2 forward, 1+2. It's 55 damage off a 12 frame punish with my opponent's back to the wall. You can do this, but it's the same damage. It just depends on what you want to do as far as mix-ups. Again, I like Maoki off of the 1-2 forward 1+2 more than this, so that's just my preference. But those are probably the best things to do to put your opponent on the wall. This is really good because, again, you catch them ducking, they're going right on the wall. And then you have, you know, like I said, the 2-4. Now, one of her best things is down back 2-2. Now, down back 2-2, as you see there, it's not natural. It's only natural on counter hit. But if you can bait them to attack in a frame advantage situation, and you can hit them with this on counter hit, if you've seen any of my combo videos, you'll see that that leads to a whole lot of damage. I'll give you just a brief little example here. So you can see when they're holding their face like that, you're actually plus 13 on hit off of that. Only on counter hit, so keep that in mind. And I'd have to pull up the frame data, but I want to say that moves like -11, -12, so down back 2-2 is not too unsafe. So it's not that big of a risk to throw it out. But if it hits on counter hit, you're at plus 14 actually. Yeah, plus 14 on hit. So what that means is your standing 4 is guaranteed. So on counter hit, you hit them with that, and you, like I said, you see them like kind of grabbing their nose and stepping back. You can press 4, and then you put them back on the wall, you know, and then boom, that's 81 damage. So just something to keep in mind when you're trying to put your opponent on the wall. If their back's to the wall, that down back 2-2 is really good if you can get it in that counter hit situation. So that pretty much covers it for our part 2. As always, if this helped you in any way, please leave a thumbs up, comment, subscribe for more content in the future. I'd like to thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you again next time.